Hi, Harry. I have elevated liver enzymes at around 45 for some years now. Been carnivore for 12 months and just got meat only. What are your thoughts on getting them down? They could be, if you've had them for a long time. I personally don't know your genetics, Colin, but if you've basically got, let's say, underlying liver cirrhosis, underlying, just because you've been on a carnivore diet, it doesn't mean they're going to come down if you've got a certain level of cirrhosis of the liver. I don't know what sort of diet you had in the past. You may have been consuming a lot of alcohol, refined carbs, all sorts of things that, and if you have the same genetics as me, because I did have fatty liver and mild cirrhosis when I had my heart condition. That's all reversed now. It can reverse. Even if you've got about a quarter of your liver left, you can still regrow an entire liver. So it is doable. But if you've got similar genetics, and there are a lot of people in Europe that do have these genetics, if that's more likely your background, what actually happens is you're not getting enough choline to export fat out of the liver. So if you're just doing meat only and not doing eggs, you're not getting enough choline. Simple as that. So you're not going to resolve it. Organ meats and eggs are the best source for choline. You can supplement. That's the other way. So, and then you may have the FXR enzymatic pathway may be in not functioning properly. Milk thistle can help with that. So can taurine. Your bile may not be functioning well as well, potentially, or bioproduction, or your gallbladder, potentially. I'm not saying it isn't, but for that to function properly, you do need taurine and choline. Taurine also helps the liver break down fibrotic tissue, so it has an anti-fibrotic effect. So over time, it will break down fibrosis of the liver. But it can take time, especially if you're doing the low doses. You sort of have to go to high doses. Now, there are issues if you're on lithium or blood pressure meds. That can be an issue. I do have a video. You should check it out. Google taurine, Harry Sopanos, and you will find the one that I discuss about certain medications and side effects and stuff like that, and strategies how to deal with it. I'm not going to cover that now in the live stream. So that's an important thing. So you need to find out exactly what state of affairs your liver is in. And I would approach things as if I had the genetics, and consider supplementing choline. You don't have to buy expensive stuff, just choline malate is fine. There are some companies that put out pure choline, but it's a bit more expensive. But just look around. I don't want the sort of formulas that are for the brain and type. There are other formulations. I just want basic choline for the liver, for fatty liver, and we want to basically resolve the problem for you. And so it's a combination of taurine, and I would go slowly, 2 grams of taurine for a week, then go up to 2, another 2 after that. And as long as you don't have blood pressure medication or stuff like that you have to adjust, you can sort of go up every week by 2 grams, get at least up to 10 grams. Continue doing that for potentially 6 months to plus. The choline is important because just in case most people don't have this problem, but there's a 4 to 5% of the population that they tend to accumulate sulfur. So once the sulfur's sort of done, they tend to have a bit of an accumulation. Just in case you're one of those people, I do recommend not the 1 gram, which is important for exporting fat and dealing with some of the issues in the liver, but I recommend 2 grams so you can actually deal with any accumulated sulfur and methylate away excess xenoestrogens that can actually also have an effect, high estrogen levels, and also export fatty liver out of the liver. So those are the sort of things you need. Also to improve the bile flow by emulsification of taurine of bile and improving bile salts and reducing the cholesterol hardening effect within the gallbladder. So you want to lower that, and that's what choline does help with that as well. And I would also recommend that you consider somebody like Bart Kay that deals with these sort of conditions if you need a consultancy to go over some of your lab works and stuff like that, because I don't do it. I have a day job, unfortunately, and can't cover that. I did it for a while, but just didn't have the time anymore.
Yeah, I've had elevated liver enzymes as well from some of the bodybuilding enhancers we've been using, sort of thing, over the years, and
but that also
all those sort of things will increase it. If I don't know what this guy's using, but if you're taking a medication, it'll probably elevate it somewhat.
Yeah, it can be sometimes medication. It can be a lot of things. That's why I'm saying that they may need to make adjustments to the medication. I don't know what they're taking. So, and that's where somebody needs to keep an eye on you, and you need to be able to consult with and go back and forward. I don't have the time to do that. So they can keep an eye on and see and make some adjustments. Whether you use somebody like Bart Kay or you find some carnivore MD in your area, or naturopathic MD, naturopathic carnivore doctor, or even, there are a number of other people out there that do provide different services. So it's for these sort of conditions, but you need somebody that does know how to read the lab works and know whether certain things are working or not. So, and how you're progressing as well. So I would not neglect this sort of stuff. You've had it for many years, and if you've had it for many years, I suspect there is a certain level of fatty liver. And if you've got the same genetics as me, you may have a higher requirement for choline than other people. If you told me you're Han Chinese, I'd probably say, oh, you probably got endogenous capability. 76% of them have, and I wouldn't even recommend it to you. But that's just one population. Majority of the rest of the world are completely the opposite. So they tend to require it in the diet, and in many cases don't get enough. So muscle meat alone ain't going to cut it. Let's put it that way. Especially if you've got an underlying condition. If you've been ancestral your whole life, the small amount of choline you get from the certain amount of choline you get from the diet is probably more than enough to export fat, to do all the different biological processes, to methylate and stuff like that. But we were never born ancestrally right through. So our requirements go up because we're trying to heal, reverse a lot of things. That's the difference why, supplements are there or organ meats, which are higher in some of these nutrients, to fix deficiencies and correct things in our body. It's a bit like Terry Walsh, that had MS. She's a doctor in the US, and she was in basically one of those, what do they call those chairs that they have where they're like zero gravity type chairs, or whatever they're called.
Inversion table?
Nah, it's a sort of a chair that you sit in, and it creates has a similar a zero gravity effect on the body. I don't remember. And she used to go around in a wheelchair as well, just getting herself around. Now she basically cycles and does long distance cycling and stuff like that. Where people on MS just get worse and worse and worse. And what she does is she consumes high amounts of organ meats. Now, I wouldn't recommend those sort of areas, those sort of levels, because, for most people, you don't need that. You may end up with over-vitaminosis. But she was so depleted because she was on a plant-based diet for decades that her body is craving for those nutrients. And so the more she puts those nutrients in, the more she'll get to some stage where the body, she'll start hating liver, it'll taste really awful to her because the body will be saying, I don't need any more. I've got enough. I'm sorted. Stop giving me this sort of food. So, in the past, we used to just provide it to young children that were growing and needed more nutrient-dense foods, and to pregnant women, not to adults. Adults may have, they've caught an animal, they'll cut a bit like a multivitamin, a little slither of it, and share it amongst the people that had just had the kill, and share the majority of it to the young children and pregnant women in the tribe, because that's the traditional way of doing, to give them nutrient density, like a super multivitamin. Yeah, but exactly. So depending on where you are and what your requirements are, they can vary.